So I've seen a few people asking or talking about outdoor wood stoves and whether or not they're worth it. This is the 12th year I've been running mine, so I figured I'd make a quick video, uh, give some information. Maybe it'll help some people decide if they want one or not. So I live in Minnesota, southern Minnesota. The winters here are, they're long, they're cold. This morning it was 2 below zero. Right now it's 9. Really, the biggest factor, the wind is more of a factor than the temperature. When it's windy, it really sucks the heat out of these things. So I've got a 1,500 square foot house with a basement, and then the stove also heats my shop. I've got a 40 by 40 garage that's insulated. It's got a 20 by 20 shop inside of that. I keep the shop heated all the time. And then the garage, I'll turn on the heat if I'm going to be working out there. And then it also provides my hot water. And I've got floor heat in the basement. So when I first came here, I had a Taylor T450 water stove. That came with the place. It was a pretty good stove. Turned out it was a little undersized for this place. So on nights where it was really cold, I'd have to go out and fill it a third time. So generally, I throw wood in the morning before I leave to go to work. And then when I get home about 5 o'clock, I'll fill it up again. But with that stove, when it was really cold, I'd have to come back out at 9, 10 o'clock, throw more wood in, which was really less than ideal. So you really got to think about, make sure if you're going to get one, make sure it's sized adequately, because you don't want to have to put wood in more than twice a day. Okay. I go through, I figure, about 10 cord a year, 10 full cord. Let me spin this camera around. So this is my wood shed. It's 12 by 18. I try to stack it 6 feet high, and then I'll run a couple more cords out the front, because I don't like running out. That only happened to me once. I ran out of wood. But it's, that's a lot of wood to stack and fill. So a couple years ago, I bought this stove. Guy was selling it, gave me a deal I couldn't pass up. Now this thing is really way too big for, well, it's a lot bigger than the other one. The firebox inside this one is probably 4 foot by 4 foot and 7 feet deep. I'll have to let the smoke clear for a minute. I don't know if you'll be able to see in there or not. But this stove is nice because you can, I can throw as much wood in here as I need, and I never have to worry about, coming out in the middle of the night and throwing more wood in, because there's nothing as hateful as that. So things I would say that you're going to want to consider if you're, the biggest thing probably is what kind of access do you have to wood? I only own 7 acres here. I don't have any of my own woods. The property owner behind me is gracious enough that they let me go out there and I can cut anything that's already on the ground. So I do get some wood from there. But the rest of it, I'm kind of reliant on finding it wherever. People call me if they've got a tree down or a tree they're going to take down, something like that. And then you got to have equipment to haul it. If you're going to, the first couple years, I hauled everything pickup load at a time, and that's a lot of pickup loads. Now I have a dump trailer. I've got a Bobcat, which makes life a lot easier. I use the Bobcat for a lot of other stuff. I didn't get that just for cutting wood. So, but you're gonna need a wood splitter. You're not gonna split that much wood by hand unless you're lucky enough if you get all something that really splits really nice. But the situation I'm in, I got to burn whatever I can get my hands on. So whether that's big, ugly, twisted up elm, some of this stuff just doesn't split well. I burn anything from red oak, hickory, elm, even some, box elder, popple, you name it. So that's one thing. What kind of access to wood do you have? Do you already have the equipment, or are you going to have to go out and buy everything? Chainsaws and wood splitter and something to haul it all with. Do you have a tractor, trailers, whatever? And then another thing to consider is how much time do you want to spend doing this? To cut and split that much wood by yourself, I mean, for me, it's kind of a all the time thing in the summer. I usually, if it's green, you got to stack it someplace where it can dry, and then move it into the woodshed. So it's a lot of work. The last couple years, I've been buying some just to save myself some time. There's a company that gets slat wood from sawmills that's already cut into 16-inch pieces, and they'll bring out a 40-yard roll-off dumpster. So if I buy one of those, I think last year I paid $680 for one of those full of oak. That's a lot of wood. That'll get me through a good share of the winter, probably 3/4 of the winter. So then I only got to cut and split so much to make up the difference instead of cutting and splitting all of it. So when you're trying to figure out, is it worth it? Well, then, if you're going to buy some wood, that's that much more expense as opposed to just buying LP or natural gas or, whatever you have. For the last several years here, LP has been running less than $1.50 a gallon. And at that price, I'm not saving any money by cutting wood. One advantage is I don't feel bad about heating the shop because the wood stove's already going. If I had to, and the garage, if I had to buy LP for that, I'd probably be more stingy, just knowing me. I wouldn't want to go out there and work and have to say, well, God, I got to heat up the shop and it's going to cost me money. So there's an advantage. The other thing you got to think about is what, do you ever leave in the winter? Because once you start this thing, I run it basically roughly 6 months out of the year. Usually start it towards the end of April, the end of October, and it runs right through towards the end of April. So if you're going to leave, you got two choices. You can either have somebody come put wood in for you, which my neighbors will do that. There's a lot of guys up here that have these outdoor stoves. I don't really like to ask. Or you got to have some backup. You're probably going to have backup in your house anyway, but like out in the shop, I've got backup LP out there because my well and pressure tank and even my water softener are out there, so I can't let that freeze. So with this stove, if I'm going to be gone just a day, I'll fill it up in the morning and it'll be fine when I get back the next night. I'll switch the house over to LP and let the garage just run. But if I go on vacation for a week, well then, you don't have to worry about the water freezing in the stove if you keep the pumps running, but you got to have alternate source of, of heat where you need it. So it's just something else to think about. Otherwise, you got to be here to babysit the thing, and by the end of 6 months, you get kind of tired of putting wood in twice a day. The other thing, that T450 I had to clean that out every week, shovel the ashes out, and there were some flues in there that had to be brushed out and stuff, which that was a bit of a chore. This one doesn't have that. This one's big enough I can shovel the ashes out once in the spring. I think last spring I took almost 2 Bobcat buckets of ash out of it. So that's a lot nicer. But just a lot of things to think about if you're looking at one of these. Like I said, how much wood can you get? How much equipment do you already have? How much time do you want to spend cutting and splitting firewood? And are you going to be around all winter? So that's what I would think. Oh, and the price of fuel. If LP is cheap, that really. I've talked to a few of my neighbors up here that we're all kind of going, how many more years do we want to deal with this? Or you just buy LP and be done with it. So hope that helps some of you guys.